Scope winch down to the position that we wanted to install the UTA. The next thing we have to do is we have to install a truss spreader. Now the reason why you need a truss spreader is because when the scope is down like this, the top and bottom trusses are actually leaning down. So they wouldn't be centered on the end trusses, which would make it very difficult to put the UTA on. The truss spreader basically holds them in the proper position. This installs in here. You'll see that there's holes in the truss spreader, and then there's 4 bolts that come up that you put in the holes like this. The installation is very easy. Clip it on, get the top and bottom on. It really doesn't matter. There's no specific way that this goes in. Once you have 3 hooked up, it's pretty much lining it up. So what that's doing now is keeping the top and bottom truss in the right location to the side trusses. All right, before we install the upper tube assembly, we want to put the light shroud out. Now, the light shroud is unique in the situation that obviously, because of the shape of the mirror box, that has a long side and a short side component, so it can only install in one direction. Simply keep the drawstrings to the bottom, right here. Other seam, a scope like this will have 2 seams in the light shroud, seam on the top, drawstrings should be right here. Also, because of the shape of the telescope, we need to have a drawstring not only on the top, but on the bottom also, so it keeps the light shroud in place. I'm going to take the light shroud, again, drawstrings to the bottom, other seam to the top. Just going to pull it over my arm like this, and then I'm going to go ahead and install it onto the trusses. Pulling it down. This is pretty much the same as any scope would be. Pulling it down like this. Alright, so initially all we want to do is just get it over the top upper truss mounts so that we can put the UTA on, and then once we have the UTA on, then we can put the drawstring around the top and pull it down. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and install the upper tube assembly. Like I said, instead of locating the top like the old ones, I'm going to put the bottom one in first. I'm going to grab the upper tube assembly. Somewhere around the 3 and 8 o'clock position seems to be the most comfortable. I am going to drop into the bottom one. I'm going to look at my sides, get it lined up with the 9, push it down. It's that simple. I'm going to go ahead and tighten all of these before I let anything go. And that pretty much installs the upper tube assembly. The upper truss mounts do not have recessed ends. This is so they kind of hang up when you put it on and off, so I didn't put them there. So you want to get these a little tighter, but they don't need to be super tight, just snugged up a little bit more than you would the bottoms. The truss spreader remains in the scope for use, so removing the upper tube assembly, you would want to back off to 3, leaving the top for last, holding it in, unscrew the top, and then with the winch in, of course, just the way it is, you can pull up on it, grab it again about 3 and 8 o'clock position, and then straight off. So it installs it comes off as easily as it installs. Go ahead again, put it in, push down, tighten my thumb screws, and I am good to go. All right, now that we have the upper tube assembly on, now the scope is balanced. I'm going to bring this down. I want to pull this out of here. Simply take this off to get the winch out of it. As you can see, very, very easy in and out system. Now the scope is released, and then I can pull this front tire out and put it off to the side. Okay. Alright, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to install the altitude drive cable. With this arrangement, with nothing being on this side of the drive roller, it's very easy to install the cable. So it's going to come on top of the roller like that. I'm always going to keep pressure on it. I'm going to do 1 wrap, keep in tension, and then I'm going to do the other wrap, making sure that the cable is not crossed over each other. Then I'm going to bring it up, disengage the spring, get it on there, and that's the installation. Taking it off, very, very easy. Just undo it, and then it's just going to unwind from the cable, and then you would put it back with the to keep it tight on the altitude bearing if you needed to remove the mirror box. So again, over the top, 1, 2, make sure it's not crossed over, like that, handle disengaged, install, and it's done. Alright, now I'm going to install the altitude encoder and encoder arm. I'd like to just mention that this and the altitude drive cable only need to be removed if you're going to pull the mirror box out. These can stay on during transport, loading, unloading. Alright, this has a slotted bottom. It's going to go onto that thumb bolt right there, and then the shaft of the encoder into here. Tighten the thumb screw. This wire completes the connection from the bottom of the scope to the truss to get power to the DO controller. This goes around the altitude encoder like so. Plugs in there. These are color coded, so then that continues up to here. This plugs right into the DO controller. This wire then goes to the secondary DO heater. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish up the shroud. Let me pull the scope around this way. I'm going to bring the shroud up over the upper thumb bolts. I'm going to go ahead and pull the drawstring tight. And what I want to do, I am going to draw the shroud down, bring it up to the ceiling. Like that. Now I'm going to pull the bottom down. Okay, again, over the lower bolts, like so. And then I'm going to come around here and tighten the lower drawstring, which will keep it nice and tight. Tuck that in. And that's the light shroud. I'm going to go ahead and install the batteries into the rocker box right now. This scope needs 2 batteries, one for the ServoCAT, one for the DO system. 7 amp hour batteries will work just fine. You can get 18 amp hour batteries, whatever you like, they'll all fit. One nice thing about this is, since we don't have anything going beyond the radius of the altitude bearings, when we go to install the battery through the front of the scope, it's absolutely wide open, nothing in your way. So I just got to remove this front panel right here, and as you can see, it's wide open in there. I got my 2 male cigarette lighter plugs for the hookup. You can get as many batteries as you need. There is a channel going across the center which basically separates the front of the rocker from the back, so this is basically your battery compartment. Put your batteries in any way you want, anywhere you want, plug them in, close the panel up, and you are ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and install the ArgonNavis podium, but before I do that, I want to show the back of the mirror box, showing the mirror how exposed it is to get air to it. Only 2 collimation bolts on the bottom of the cell. Top one's locked out just like the other one. Your disengage levers for the ServoCAT are both here. The ServoCAT coming through the back, and then all your plug-ins over there. For the altitude encoder, I have this so that it retracts back into the scope. This you just slide inside the altitude encoder arm till it comes out the top, and then just plug it in. And then you can just feed back any excess back into the hole. This plug will go into the podium wires, and this is the 12 volt feed for the ArgonNavis and the DO system. I'm going to go ahead and install the ArgonNavis podium now. This does install into the rear hole where the handle would be. So yes, you do have to remove the handle or remove the podium to install the handle. Again, paint line it up. That's going to line up your hole. Put the thumb bolt in and tighten. Okay. Now, I want to point out that this scope was set up for opposite side operation than standard. Normally, the focuser and podium are on that side of the scope, so when it's in here, the wiring is right here off the podium. Unfortunately, when you get it done on the other side, I can't bring that to this side because of where the motors are located. So I have this to complete the connection. This will plug in here like this. This I just put underneath the encoder arm. This is your DSC plug-in right here. This is your encoder wires right here. And then this completes the connection to power up to the top. And then this, of course, would be your hand pad. And that's it. So that concludes the assembly of the telescope. It's all set up. Again, other than the focuser being on this side of the scope and that extra length of wires, the assembly for every Horizon telescope from 20 inches up to however large you would like will be just like this one. Smaller scopes, the assembly is the same. I have a little 16 over here, which the assembly is exactly the same, but obviously we don't need the winch because of how high the scope is and such. So anyway, that concludes the assembly of the telescope. At this point you would just collimate it up and you are ready to go. Do your 2-star alignment and